ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another episode of How Did It All Happen? The talk where we recall some of history's greatest events. And tonight is a show that we've promised, and it's finally here. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, tonight we're going behind the scenes of the crucifixion and resurrection of Jesus Christ. Tonight's going to be packed with 3 television exclusive interviews. So if I was you, I'll stay glued to my seat. But without further ado, let's give up for our first guest, Peter the Disciple. Good evening, Peter. Thank you so much for being here with us tonight. How does it feel?
A little nervous, if I'm being honest.
That's understandable, as it was a really an emotional time for you. But could you please give us your account of how it felt like being with Jesus right before his death?
We all see Judas kiss Jesus. Then everything went crazy. Someone seizes Jesus. A sword appears from nowhere and High Priest's ears cut off. Then I know there's going to be trouble. It's just all going so wrong. The mob drags Jesus from Mount Olives. I follow, staying back a bit. We cross the Kidron Valley and enter into Jerusalem by the east gate. It's dark and the city streets are empty. I lag behind. I do not want to be seen or caught. I follow them right up to the high priest's house. I mean, Jesus must have been inside, but I cannot see him. There's a fire burning at the courtyard and no one guards the gate, so I enter. It's cold, so I sit by the fireplace. And as I look up, I realize others warming themselves at the fire are part of the mob that dragged Jesus. My blood runs cold. So I pull my blanket tighter to myself. Then I hear a scream from the high priest, like a wail of triumph. The guards and the men at the fireplace are all called away. Then I see them take Jesus. They beat Jesus. They hit and spit at my beloved Jesus. It's torture. Just listening. But what can I do? I'm frightened. But I stayed. I stayed. Then others gather around at the fireplace. A group of serving women gather and start to gossip about Jesus and what happened. One of them looks at me and says, "Hey, you were with that man from Nazareth. You were with Jesus." I start to sweat, despite the chill of the cold night. They will beat me too. If they find out that I was with him, I cry out in fear, "No! No! I do not know what you are talking about, woman. I do not know that man." Then I hear the courtyard cock crow. I feel so ashamed. I try to move towards the gate. But then others had heard the accusation. The woman follows me, points her finger and accuses me. "You are one of them." No. Oh no, I missed it. So wait. "You are one of them." There is such venom in her voice. "No," I cry out, denying her accusation. "I do not know that Galilean." and I move towards the gate, standing at the gate. Then, one man measures me up and down and says, "Certainly, you are one of them. I can tell by your accent that you are a Galilean." "No," I shouted. "I swear on my mother's head that I do not know that Galilean." Then the courtyard cock crows again. I remember that night of the Pentecost. I swore to Jesus, swore to him, that even if others would betray him, I would not betray him. Never. That even if I had to die for him, I would not betray him. I remember too well what Jesus said to me. "Peter, before the cock crows twice, you will deny me 3 times. But I was so afraid. What can I do? They will beat me too. I'm so sorry. I'm so very sorry. I tried to be brave. I was just so afraid. Forgive me, Jesus."
Welcome back to How Did It All Happen? Before the break, we were listening to Peter's emotional account of how he denied Jesus. But for another eyewitness, ladies and gentlemen, let's give up for Ronan the soldier. Good evening, Ronan. Thank you so much for being here with us tonight. I know you're used to being behind the scenes rather than in front. And as you can tell from that frosty reception, people have controversial views of seeing you, as you are one of the Romans who assisted in the crucifixion of Jesus. Could you please give us your account?
That's okay. It makes a change from being on duty. I was there. I saw everything with my own eyes. Pilate offered to free this Jesus as this traditional Passover to the people. There was some murmuring in the crowd, and then some of the men started to shout for Barabbas instead. "What shall I do then with Jesus who is called Christ?" Pilate asked. The crowd yelled, "Crucify him!" Pilate attempted to reason with them, but he soon realized that the crowd was too loud for him to speak over. Then Pilate, in an act of desperation, reached down for a basin of water. "I am innocent of this man's blood," he said. "It is your responsibility." A great cheer arose from the crowd in anticipation for another crucifixion. Some of us guards led him down from the platform and took him away to be beaten. As soon as we arrived, a rope was tied around his wrists and pulled tight. Our commander came to check on our prisoner's back to make sure that the skin was tight. He then reached for his whip. He let it dangle behind him as he called out curses at Jesus. We all called out curses and insults at him too. Then our cheers grew loud as our commander smiled and stood posed to lash out with the whip. Our cheers grew louder as the ends of the whip wrapped around the body of this man. It was hard to discern the features of his face after we had all taken our turn. His eyes were black and swollen. His nose was bleeding in many places. His lips were enlarged and bleeding. He remained conscious though, through all that we did to him, never crying or moving to stop anything. He was a brave one, that I'll give him. Then our commander announced that it was time to get on with the actual crucifixion. We ripped every shred of clothing from Jesus' body, grabbed him by his hands and feet, and laid him out across the wood. His body convulsed in pain as we started putting nails through them. It took the four of us to pick up the plank of wood with him on it and drop it into the hole in the ground. I stood back a few steps and watched him hang there. He was naked, bruised, bleeding, dying on that cross. Someone from the crowd behind me began to hurl more insults at him. "Save yourself, King of the Jews." Another said, "Let's see some miracles now." I watched my own breath leave me as he lifted himself up on his feet to breathe one breath of air, only to collapse down onto his wrists to complete the process over and over again. Then he would die from a lack of oxygen. The last time he would lift himself up on his feet would be the last breath he would ever take.
Welcome back to How Did It All Happen? Tonight's been filled with two really tense accounts of what happened right before the death of Jesus Christ. And I think it's time to lighten up the mood, don't you? Here's to talk about the resurrection of Jesus Christ. Ladies and gentlemen, let's welcome Mary Magdalene. Good evening, Mary. Thank you so much for waiting for your turn patiently. You claimed that you spoke to Jesus right after his death. How did this all come about?
They always said I was crazy. And I guess for most of my life I was. I was never in the right mindset until I met Jesus. They always say there's no love stronger than the love that accepts you for who you are. And that's exactly how Jesus loved me. When we first met, I was a mess. He found me as I was in my earliest days, as mad as a wet hen. Everywhere I went, I became the centre of attention because no one could ignore the foul-mouthed demons that lived inside of me. He was teaching and healing the sick in our small town near the Sea of Galilee. And of course I was there. I was everywhere in those days, like a nagging headache that won't let you know peace. The people tried to ignore me, but I wouldn't let them. If I couldn't know peace, then why could they? If I had to live with the torment, then I would be a torment to them. Don't ask me why. It's just how I was. But Jesus didn't ignore me. Even in my state of babbling and screaming, I could still understand that here's a man who loves me for who I am. No one has ever loved me like that. No one has ever reached down into my torment to lift me out. Everyone always expects that I should reach out to them. Oh, what a cold, miserable morning it was. I don't think any of us had slept the night before. Even though I'd helped Nicodemus and Joseph place him in the tomb, it just didn't seem enough. And even with the extravagant amounts of burial spices that Nicodemus supplied, again, it just didn't seem enough for him. Jesus had done so much for me. I felt I simply had to do more, even if it was to only attend his burial. Now, I'm not one to go to cemeteries. After all the sleepless nights, I was blurry-eyed and disorientated, like walking the dark streets of a strange city and looking at the lights that represent landmarks. But the tomb looked different from the last time I was there. It was all a blur. The open tombs, the angels getting the disciples, returning back with them, and hating that I was unable to throw off this cloak of confusion. I thought he was the gardener at first. I mean, doesn't every garden have a person to keep it tidy and, keep the riffraff away? I just wanted to go home and sleep and forget that my master was now gone forever. But he persisted. Whom are you seeking? I still didn't recognise him. But then he spoke once more, and it was as if that cloak of confusion was suddenly lifted away. like the voice of an old friend had just entered the conversation. Jesus had always said my name in such a warm, gentle tone, like a stream tumbling over rocks, or like songbirds walking towards dawn. In an instant, I knew it was him, and all doubt and confusion left me. Jesus was more than my maker. He was my friend. He knew my name, and in him saying just that simple word, my name, it reminded me the depths of love that he has for me and everyone who knows him. Jesus was no longer dead. He was alive.
Wow, what an amazing account. What an amazing show it's been. Thank you to all our guests, and thank you for being such a great audience. Do tune in next time. Have a good night.
So you came to change my life. You thought I was worth keeping. So you cleaned me up inside. You thought I was to die for. So you sacrificed your life so I could be free, so I could be whole, so I could tell everyone I know. You thought I was worth saving. You came and changed my life. You thought I was worth keeping. So you cleaned me up inside. You thought I was to die for. So you sacrificed your life so I could be free, so I could be whole, so I could tell everyone you thought I was worth saving. Lord, you came and changed my life. You thought I was worth keeping. Lord, you cleaned me up inside. You thought I was to die for. So you sacrificed so I could be free, so I could be whole, so I could tell everyone you thought I was worth saving. Thank you, Jesus. Lord, you came for me. You came and changed my life. You thought I was worth keeping. Lord, you cleaned me up. You thought I was to die for. Lord, you sacrificed so I could be free, so I could be whole, so I could tell everyone I know. Hallelujah. Glory to the Lord, God who changed my life. And I will praise you, worship him, I'll give you praise, because I am free, because I am whole, and I will tell everyone sing hallelujah, glory to the God who changed my life, and I will praise you, I'll worship you, I'll give you glory, because I am free, yes, because I'll tell, come on, sing with me, hallelujah, glory, glory to the God who changed my life. I will praise you, I'll worship you, I'll give you glory, I'll give you glory, because you deserve it, because you deserve it forever, because worth saving. So you came and changed my life. You thought I was worth keeping. So you cleaned me up inside. You thought I was to die for. Yeah. Ah, Jesus. You thought I was to die for. Oh, yeah. Ah. You thought I was to die for. You thought I was to die for. So you sacrificed.